me another draft profile.
The Seattle Seahawks select.
This is Brock Huard's Draft Profile.
You want traits? Check. You want a vocal leader? Check.
At the end of the day, you have to say, okay, what's best for the organization?
Can you make people around you better, and can you bring people together?
Every day at 9 a.m. leading up to the draft.
Yeah, today I've got the lone quarterback that I'm going to profile in this draft, and it's not J.J. McCarthy, and it's not Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels or Drake May, and some of those guys, Salk, I wouldn't even, if the Seahawks had the fifth pick in this draft or fifth pick like they did last year, I don't know. Some of those guys I wouldn't be super comfortable with taking even at 4 or 5 or whatever. This is the last of my 5 that will be outside the first round, at least by some accounts. From a talent perspective outside the first round. The next 4 guys I profile from here forward are all possible Seahawk first-round picks. If Michael Penix watches his name not called next Thursday, and they go through all 32, and the Seahawks trade down, and they add a little more of an arsenal into the second and third round, and Michael Penix is sitting there day 2, I would love the Seahawks to go up and get him. Maybe at pick 33. And you see that often. If you don't see guys go, and obviously the most famous of all is Lamar in Baltimore, where Mike McDonald was when they went out with Ozzie Newsome and got him at 32. I think that fifth-year option stuff is way overblown. I think if a guy can play and you see it, they're going to pay him before you ever get to that fifth-year option and going to redo the deal anyway. So if Michael Penix watches his name not called on day 1, you will hear me on the show Friday morning say, go get Michael Penix. Because Michael Penix does what every one of these other guys I've profiled does. He makes people around him better. Dude was 25-3. 25-3 coming off of the Jimmy Lake debacle. They were bad. They're a 4-win team. Mm-hmm. And obviously a lot of pieces were a part of it. Kalen DeBoer right at the top of it, Ryan Grubb and everybody else. But he elevated Rome Odunze. He elevated Jalen. He elevated Roger Rosengard. He elevated everybody around him to being 25-3. The strongest commentary yet that we have had, and it doesn't surprise me, because Bruce Feldman got close to Michael Penix throughout his career, both in Indiana and in Seattle. When Bruce Feldman came on our show and said this, it resonated.
If I had the second pick of the draft and I needed a quarterback and Caleb is not there, I'd have a hard time saying no to Michael Penix because he made so many big-time throws, and I get it. He had 3 terrific receivers, and he had a really good offensive line. But I know this about him. I know he has battled through adversity and come through the other side. I know he is, got an electric arm, and he is not afraid. I go back to something Cam Cameron had once explained to me. He was like in the NFL, and he was like basically standing like almost cheek to cheek with me. He was like, "This is open." And in college, guys are wide open.
Jaden Daniels guys at LSU, wide open. Caleb extending plays, running around like crazy. Michael Penix doesn't do that. He can't do that. But oftentimes, guys, we're wide open. Compare and contrast Drake May and the talent around him and the people around him and the throws he made in the pocket to Michael Penix is not close. It's not close. And obviously, you heard Booger right there talk about JJ. There was not the volume of plays, not even close to Michael Penix. Give me cut number 1. In the rainstorm, in an absolute downpour in Corvallis. Didn't matter the weather. Didn't matter the opponent. That spiral, that lefty spiral, cuts through.
Final minute now of the first half as Penix heaves it down into the end zone. Caught! Touchdown! Odunze for a second time tonight.
Damon said it to me, and I'll give 2 quick anecdotes. Damon said it to me. Sam said it to me. Damon said it to me the first spring. He's like, bro, I've been around Marino, Bledsoe, Brady. I've not seen a dude throw the outcut like this guy can. This guy throws outcuts, and this is in college where the field is bigger, where you've got to have more horsepower than you do in the NFL. And this guy throws an out route and outcutting routes unlike anything I've seen, especially at the college level, but even compared to some of the best ever do at the NFL level. Secondly, talk to Sam after that spring when Michael Penix arrived. He's like, Uncle Brock, I've never seen this. Dude just single hitches and throws it 75 yards. Most guys single hitch throw it 60. Good arm, you single hitch, you throw it 65. This guy just single hitches and throws it 75 yards. He's just different. And kudos to him, man. He showed out through this whole interview process. Season ends, disappointingly against Michigan, worst game of the season against a really brutal team, and then he builds himself up 6'2", 216. And then he goes to the combine and he wings it everywhere. And then he gets to his pro day, Salk, and he runs 4.5 and he jumps 37 inches and he reminds everybody, I am not a stiff. I may have 2 ACLs. I may have 2 shoulders. 3 of my 4 years in Indiana may have ended short. Season's cut short because of injury. But the last 2 years, I've hardly been touched because I know how to play the game from the neck up. I know how to get the ball out. 3rd in the country in sacks allowed, 2nd in the country in sacks allowed, like just protecting himself. You know, it was a really cool program back in the day? John Gruden's QB school. You know how fun this class would be? It started to run its course, right? It's just like anything. The first few years were amazing, and all of a sudden it's kind of got a little tired, and then some of the classes weren't as good. Can you imagine this year? Like in its prime, that program with John, just grilling these guys, right? Just like, hey, man, look at the sheriff. You're going to go toe-to-toe with Manning, you know? How could you remember how Gruden would be? He was so good, though. And then they get on the field and be like, oh, my gosh. Yeah. And they get on the field and Gruden be like, I never seen this. I've never heard of football like this. Right? And he'd be able to put more volume of plays that are absolute wow plays, a highlight reel, second only, honestly, to Caleb from a wow NFL throws. Penix is there. Penix is sitting in the 2nd round, and the Seahawks have an opportunity. Trade next year's 3rd. Trade next year's 2nd. Go up and be aggressive and go get a guy that from day one would step into this system.
Right, so I love it. Thank you. That is today's draft profile.
I could keep going for like 10 more minutes.
I know you could, but I feel like I've got to step in here and
I could go for 30 more minutes.
Okay, so if you feel that good, why not at 16? If you truly believe he could be a franchise quarterback, why would you be a franchise quarterback?
I don't know. I don't know if he could. I don't know that. I mean, that's a legitimate, 50-50 proposition, if that.
But that's like Belichick was saying to quarterback, Brock, no matter what. If you have an opportunity to get a guy that you think's got that ability, why would you risk it? Why would you wait and see whether or not you get him later?
Do I want Geno, Sam Howell, and Troy Fautanu at 16? Or do I want to trade out of that and, miss the opportunity to get a bona fide Olin Kreutz-esque nasty freaking difference maker in the interior to maybe the exterior of my offensive line? Do I want that, or do I want to take the risk?
If there is a franchise quarterback that you feel that strongly about, you got to take him. You just have to take him.